Today's Saturday, July 3rd. I'll be leaving later on this coming week on my trip, so I thought I would make a short video today reminding you of what my plans are. I'll be leaving here on Friday morning, July 9th. I'll fly up to Newark, New Jersey, and pick up a car there and spend several days seeing my mother and a former student of mine, some friends and so forth. And then on the 14th, I will fly directly to Israel, landing there at 7:45 in the morning. On the 15th or the 14th, I have to, I no matter how many times I look at it, I don't keep track of the dates in my brain here. Wednesday, July 14th is when I take off. I land there Thursday morning at 7:45 on the 15th. I've started to do some preliminary research. When I say research, not really research, just some preliminary reading, some general reading of some of the material that I have here that relates to the areas that I'm going to be researching. I went through some of the highlights of a couple of books I have on gender and its role in the Holocaust. And what I did was I just took out some key ideas and words and phrases from these readings that just kind of constitute a list of, I would call them, trigger terms or buzzwords that'll help me focus my research as I get into the archives at Yad Vashem, the various topics that I want to explore in greater depth that were just mentioned very briefly in some of these articles, such as one of the dilemmas and situations that women faced all the time was the fact that the men were usually deported to the death camps or the labor camps, and the women were left alone with the children in the ghetto to fend for themselves and to starve and so on, and very often they were left there with elderly parents as well to take care of, and so the burden of trying to hold a family together often fell on the women. Many of the women who went to the camps went straight to their death, because if you want to wipe out an entire race of people, then the producing factor in that, so goes the concept, is the female. And so if you destroy the female, you've obviously made a big step in eliminating that undesirable race of people. It gets a little more complicated than that, of course. And I came across some of the articles that talked about the fact that women were very often forced into positions of doing less than honorable things under normal circumstances in order to survive. When you're starved, you're starving to death possibly, you're disease-ridden possibly, and the only way to get an extra ration of bread is to sell one's body, then that became a mode of operation for some of the females. Of course, the interesting thing there is that the Nazis were claiming that the Jews were a non-race, defiling the purity of their race, yet they had no problem raping women and using them for as sexual toys in exchange for, let's say, food or things that would ensure their survival at times, kind of like a bribery. So I came across some interesting ideas in the reading. I don't want to go into them too heavily today. I've contacted Yad Vashem, my friend there, who's the director of the International English-Speaking Training Seminars for Teachers, for the educators. His name is Ephraim K., and Ephraim has the information he needs to know what topics I'm going to be looking into, and he emailed me back that he'll be pointing me in the right direction as much as possible for me to seek some of the answers to what I'm looking into. And I've gotten my paperwork for Sorel. For those of you not familiar with Sorel, Sorel is the Volunteers for Israel program that I'll be working on for spending 2 weeks on an army base as a volunteer, doing whatever it is that they need me to volunteer to do, whatever kind of menial task it might be. Last year I worked in medical supplies, so I have no idea where I'll be, what base I'll be, what I'll be doing. The only thing I know is it'll be volunteer work, and I'll be serving the state of Israel, which is my intention here. I'm looking at some of the travel books here, trying to determine what kind of places in the last 10 days I have, aside from also the weekends off, because when we're on the army base we have the weekends off, and we can leave the base, where I like to travel and go and see things in the country. I do want to get to Egypt, to Sinai, where Mount Sinai is, and in the footsteps of Moses, you know, the burning bush from the Bible and so forth. But then I was looking also at the map of Israel, and since I'll be driving a car with a GPS there, I was thinking of maybe renting the car in Jerusalem and driving from there into the Negev desert to the city of Beersheba, which is the capital of the Negev desert. I've never been there. Spent a couple of nights there seeing the Bedouin market and so forth. Then from there, head south to Eilat, where I would get a tour into Egypt to see Mount Sinai. And then returning to Eilat, from Egypt, drive back north along the Dead Sea, spend a couple of nights, a couple of days in a place called Ein Bokek, which is a resort on the Dead Sea that has a lot of these natural sulfur and salt pools, mineral pools that are supposed to be very healthy for you. And they've got a whole string of hotels, a cluster of hotels right there on the Dead Sea, a lot of them that are spas. People go there for like a spa vacation. And then from there, I'd like to maybe take the car and continue up north to northern Israel, and then cut across to the other coast, to the Mediterranean, where I might spend the last couple of days in the city of Haifa, the third largest city in Israel, and maybe near Haifa there's the Mount Carmel, and maybe stay in a Druze village. The Druze are very peaceful Arabs. They're very supportive of Israel. They serve in the Israeli army, and hospitality is one of their big things. And so I have not been to a Druze village yet, and I would like to visit one, possibly even stay in a Druze village. And then from there, I guess I would drive back to Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, where I would eventually be turning in the car and flying back here on the 18th of August. So that looks like my tentative itinerary. I've been going onto the internet here and trying to get some, prices on different places. Some of them are extremely expensive, especially in August, because August is when all the Israelis take holiday. But I have to deal with what I have. And so I'll make another video probably next week as we get closer to me leaving on the trip. And this week I'm going to be busy starting to get all my things together, making sure everything fits the way I want it in the new backpack I purchased, and start getting ready for packing, which is a chore in itself. And so possibly the next video I'll make is right before I leave, or when I get up to New Jersey.